Good morning. I'm Dick Hales. I'm pleased to say I'm with the Park staff now after spending 7 years as Plan Director over with the City of Greensboro. This session is referred to as SCRPP 101, that's Sustainable Communities Regional Planning Project. My job and Mike McNair with me from High Point is going to be to run through quickly some of the basics about this program, touch on some of the challenges we're facing as a region, some of the basics of the process we expect to cover in the next 3 years, and then a couple of the preliminary goals and objectives we've laid out. We are going to kind of run through some materials quickly, and then we're going to be turning it over for the next session led by Elaine Stover to get a lot of your feedback. So if you have reactions or comments to what we're covering, please jot them down, and we'll have a big part after this to make sure you have your input there. And with that, I'll turn over to Mike McNair. He's Housing and Community Development and Housing Director over in High Point.
Thank you, Dick. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We try it again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, good. As Dick indicated, we're going to be brief here. Up, down, arrow, right, Dick?
Right.
I'm a transplant from Fayetteville. I've been up here about 8.5 years. How you doing? And so a lot of these challenges are becoming real clear to me. We're running across them in a lot of different places. Now, just want to touch on a few things here. One of the things I hope that you'll see with these challenges that a lot of them are interwoven. You know, as the Bible talks about, one begat the other. You see linkages between them that it's almost you touch one, you've got to touch the other. As you know, we've had a lot of job loss in the area. Job losses lead to reduced incomes. Reduced incomes lead to fewer housing choices. We end up with worsening housing conditions, overcrowding, things of that nature. Spread out development. I know in High Point we experience what I call at least, you can't get there from here phenomenon. There are places where the job is there, but there's no, if you don't have a car, you can't get there. And that's a real problem in our community. Affordability gap, again, that ties back to job loss or people being underemployed. What we see a lot is you have a lot of housing. I think you've seen an article in the paper recently about a lot of vacant housing. The reason the housing is vacant is that people can't afford to live there. Other people see that and say, well, there's plenty of affordable housing, there's just not enough people out there to fill it. I'm like, no, that's not really the case. They can't afford the housing either because of the rent or the utilities. So it gets to be, again, it ties them together. Fewer housing choices. As you know, again, that ties into jobs and income. The less you make, the less option you have, the less choices you have. We're seeing people who can afford maybe $150 a month or $200 a month in rent. The marketplace does not support that. So we have a lack of subsidized housing. If I recall, the Housing Authority in High Point at least has a waiting list of 1,500 families. I'm not sure I have no idea what it is in Greensboro, but I'm sure it's substantial. So these are issues that are traveling with us. We have fewer traveling alternatives. Got away from myself here. As you know, or may know, a lot of personal trips, 95% of them in the area are done by car. Again, there's really not any other option there. There are a lot of people that live long ways from their jobs. I believe at High Point, I believe we determined that a majority of High Point employees don't live in High Point. You know, they live in Winston, they live in Thomasville, they live in Lexington, they live in Greensboro. My HUD rep lives in Charlotte. in a sense. You have that linkage that's absent. You just, again, you can't get there from here. Health issues, again, and this again ties back into job loss and income. When you are unable to afford quality housing, you end up in unhealthy conditions. We see that a lot with lead-based paint, which is prevalent in this area. We see a lot of asbestos issues. So a lot of old homes that built in the 20s and 30s with a lot of unabated lead situations. And it's again, you're just caught up in this thing. Increased diversity. In High Point, and I can't speak to a lot of the Triad area, but I can certainly relate to High Point. In High Point, we have a very large Hispanic population, or a growing Hispanic population, and it's concentrated in the southwest part of the city, which is an area that has a lot of brownfields, has a lot of factories, mills, things of that nature that are no longer in operation. So not only are they in places where there really aren't jobs, but you're also running into health situations as well. Infill sites, because of these mills and factories, we have a lot of sites that are really eligible for infill development. There are funding mechanisms out there, but we haven't really mastered them yet. And the state has a meal tax program, tax credit program available. But it's an area that needs a lot of work. And better use of colleges, I think you will all agree that North Carolina has one of the better college systems in the country, and we need to utilize those better. Now, I'm trying to stay within my 5 minutes here. I'm on track.
You're good. You're good.
I'm good. I have 2 more. Well, I'm not going to use them. And I ran through this again because Dick told me to run through it. And I'm going to turn it over to Dick. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. We're going to turn now to something not quite as interesting for some folks, and that's about the process. The big graphic on the far left there on the easel is sort of the org chart for this project up till now. And up till now is important because a lot of people are coming into the process that weren't there last fall when the BART and the COG staff were putting an application together, and then the early meetings that have been going on there. But this is an effort to try and kind of do a brief run through of what's in there. There's certainly, at the start of any process like we've been doing in recent months and going to be doing for many months to come, forming of a lot of groups and starting an educational process. 12 counties and 63 municipalities. It's a huge area, 1.6 million people. And this is probably one of the boldest undertakings of a real regional plan to date. In real general terms, the major steps in the process we're going to be going through during roughly the next 3 years are lots and lots of education and forming groups, followed by a lot of review of data and trends related to sustainability, housing, jobs, environment. We're going to be reviewing them and trying to validate them as well. A lot of that's going to happen in smaller scale groups. It's not going to happen as a whole. I'll talk about it a little bit more. Toward the end of the first year, this fall and into early next year, we're going to be working on a visioning process, trying to see if we can develop some sort of consensus as a whole for the region, the vision and related goals to that. After that, in good planning fashion, we try and start putting together recommendations and proposals, look at scenario development, what are the different options on how this region could develop sustainably, and try and select an option. Then we're preparing the regional, as we get into The second into the third year, we're trying to actually prepare a plan, put elements together, draft something up, be out there to review it with folks, and eventually we'll be going to all the elected bodies in the region to see if we can get it adopted. And of course, end of year 3 and adoption of the plan is the start of implementation. I think as you're aware of some of the programs already going on in the region, there's a lot of stuff already going on. A lot of this is going to be modeling best practices, trying to find out who's doing it right, and seeing if we can't expand that into more parts of the region. So implementation really is already starting and going to be continuing.